Well, howdy everyone, it's Matthew, your friendly neighborhood technician, making another video for you out of Boise, Idaho. Today, I'm going to be replacing the rear wheel seal, the rear axle seal on a 2000 Toyota Tacoma. And while I'm in there replacing the driver's side rear wheel seal, I'm also going to be replacing the brake shoes and all the brake hardware components and stuff inside of there on both sides. So this video, you'll get to learn and watch how to do all of that. Now, the first thing you obviously want to do is get your vehicle jacked up. I use a 2-point jack system there, just for safety. Another thing that I do whenever I jack a vehicle up that I'm working on is I place the tire and rim underneath the frame. I do that just in case the vehicle ever wants to fall on me or have any issues like that. That rim will bear the weight of the vehicle if it falls, and it gives you that much space in between there. And I always say a rim is much easier to replace than a human or any other parts or components. Another thing I do when I raise a vehicle up and put it up on jack stands is I shake the heck out of the vehicle, and I make sure that it's stable on those jack stands, because I'm going to be underneath there banging on stuff, moving stuff around, moving this vehicle around. So I don't want any reason for this vehicle to come down on top of me. So obviously the first step in this process is to go ahead and get your wheel removed, which I've already done. Now the next step that you should do, because we are going to be removing the axle, is to go ahead and drain your rear differential. Now before you pull your drain plug here, go ahead and pull your fill plug. I've actually been in a situation in my career before where I've pulled a drain plug, then pulled a fill plug, and realized that the fill plug was stripped out, and I had a heck of a hard time having to get it filled back up. So just in case this ever wants to strip out on you or not come out at all, go ahead and pull this first. Alright, and so for the drain and fill plugs, you're going to use a 17mm socket. That'll loosen your fill plug, and then you're going to use a 24mm socket, and that'll loosen your drain plug. You gotta love the smell of gear oil. Some people hate it, some people actually like the smell. That's pretty clean gear oil in there too. Alright, so we're going to let that drain out, and then we will replace our drain and fill plugs. Alright, after hanging out for a few minutes, now that everything's drained, go ahead and replace your drain plug and your fill plug. This way you won't lose it. Leave your fill plug loose so you remember to fill it up. You can go ahead and tighten your drain plug though. And just a reminder, drain and fill plug are 17 and a 24mm sockets. Okay, so now that we got the rear differential drained and ready to pull the axle on it, we're going to want to move over to the side where we have a bad wheel seal at, and we're going to want to go ahead and start working on getting our brake drum off and our brake components out. Okay, so You'll have to forgive the muffled voice. I'm wearing a respirator, and that's because I'm getting ready to spray brake clean. So, now that we've got the rear differential drained and all that other good stuff, then the next step to do is to remove our brake drum. And that should be fairly easy to do. Just pull it off and then set that aside, okay? Now, once you get in here, if you've never done this job before, if you've never done a brake job like this before, the best thing to do is to take pictures of everything inside of here so you can use it as a reference for when you're putting everything back together. Because in order to pull this axle out and change the seal, we're going to have to take all of this off and apart. And before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and spray everything down with brake cleaner. All right, now we're gonna let that sit and dry, and then we're gonna get to work. All right, and using our brake tool, we're gonna get the springs for our brake shoes off the retaining springs. Ruby, come here. Pull those out like so. All right, next I'm going to use some large picks to get these brake springs off and out of here. And just expect to fight with this stuff. And honestly, I got a little ahead of myself on here on some of this by removing those springs first. No big deal. Now we just got to get this top spring off. That's going to be a lot of fun. And like I said, I got ahead of myself here on this one by removing that out first. So there you go. This is your emergency brake, and we're gonna have to get rid of that next. Now I'm actually gonna leave this the way it is because I'm gonna have to set the emergency brake up just like this one. So, for your emergency brake, you're going to go up top, right here. You're going to pull this pin, and you're going to pull this line out. Don't lose your pin. Let me see, I need to go get a little hammer. I'll be right back. Alright, now we've got the pin removed for our emergency brake line. So now you're going to want to get in here and remove the mechanism. And we're going to do this so we can get in here and get the wheel hub and everything off. So here's your mechanism here. And you're going to do that by removing these two bolts. May need a wrench to get back in here. Yes, we do. You're also going to have a spring back here that you're going to need to get off right here. Again, just take a pair of pliers or a or a pick or something and just go ahead and get that spring off. Then you can go ahead and remove your emergency brake mechanism. All right. So, I'm going to put these parts someplace safe real quick. All right, I'm going to show you something here now. Every job is different, okay, and each one comes with its own challenges. So although the procedures are basically the same, on this one the brake line is kind of rusted and it's kind of just bonded together the fastener with the brake line. So this is supposed to turn freely on here, fairly easy, but it doesn't. And so as I was turning it, I noticed it wanted to turn the brake line. Now if I kept on turning it, it would have broke the brake line. So what I did was I soaked it in PB Blaster, break up some of that rust and dirt in there, and then I held the brake line with a pair of pliers in order to get this to turn and come out. So, you know, you never know what you're going to run into, even though the procedures are the same. You could run into a rusty brake line that wants to break as you take it off. You could run into rusty nuts and bolts that want to break. So always just take your time and sometimes think outside of the box, and you should be able to get some of this stuff apart without breaking it or doing anything like that. So now that we've got our brake line separated, it's time to go in here and get our axle off, and you're going to do that by removing these 4 bolts back here. And what I'm going to do is go ahead and soak these in PB Blaster also, and then go ahead and get those taken off so I can pull our axle off. Alright. And like I said, do not expect these back bolts to come off easy in any form or fashion. You'll probably be better off just using a breaker bar to at least loosen them. I'm going to tell you right now, the PB Blaster is definitely a plus. But once you get them loose, you can go ahead and switch to a normal wrench to make your life ratchet, wrench, whatever, and make your life easier. All right. And now you can see we can separate our axle here and start pulling it out. So I'm going to pause it and get set up for that final process for you. Oops. All right. So now that we got everything broken down, let's go ahead and pull our axle. Now when you're pulling an axle, just make sure that you're careful. You don't want to bang the axle around inside of the differential too much. You know, I've never seen anybody in 18 years be able to pull an axle without banging it around a little bit. So Don't get too stressed out or uptight if you bang it around. You just don't want to smack it too much around inside of here or anything like that. So let's go ahead and get this axle pulled. Alrighty then, and there you go, folks. There is your Toyota axle, and that is how you pull that out, break it down, and gain access to it. Now the seal that we're going to be replacing is going to be this seal here, and there's also an O-ring here that needs to be replaced. You can see this O-ring is definitely no good. So I'll show you how to pop that seal out real quick. So just get you a pry bar or something and just pop that seal right out. Then you're going to put the new seal back in reverse, and everything else that you've done is going to go back in reverse. So folks, I'm going to go ahead and concentrate on putting this back together. I'll make another video showing how to put the brakes and stuff back together once I get to that point, and then go from there. I appreciate everybody supporting me, hanging out and watching me. If you have any questions, just shoot them to me in the comments. I'm real well known for getting back and walking people through procedures, trading emails. I've even traded phone numbers and given people a call and answered your questions that way. So I hope you enjoyed this video. This is Matthew, your friendly neighborhood technician, signing off.